Alright, welcome back everybody. Now, for a book I, checked out from the library, actually, this book is not like, Newport's Haunted or, Haunted Kentucky, which I mentioned in the previous video. It's called The Cold Hand. This is, from stories from Appalachia and everything. In case you're not from the United States or you don't know like what Appalachia is for sure, what Appalachia is, it's the mountain range, here on the eastern side of the United States. It's, down there where like Kentucky, Virginia, and Tennessee all meet. For example, if that area there in like West Virginia and everything, it's like where bluegrass music comes from, basically, and firewater or moonshine, basically, and a lot of like Cumberland Gap area, stuff like that. That's like the Appalachian Mountain Range right there. And it goes up towards like Pennsylvania, state of Pennsylvania, and everything. But, most of the stories that I like, as far as like ghost stories go, come from the state of Kentucky anyway. And this is another one of those ghost story kind of things. This book is called, like I said, The Cold Hand, and it's written by James Burchell, Linda Crater, and Peggy Kendrick. And it's just, like general, like little short stories and everything. But, like, for example, here's a story called The Witch. And it says, Caleb Palmer, I'm going to read this, I forgot to mention, like I did in the last video, more or less verbatim. Caleb Palmer, a young man in his 20s, tells stories his family has experienced through the generations. He knows well the adventures of searching out answers to the unexplained, for he has walked the haunted foothills looking for solutions. Supposedly, there were practicing witches here a long time ago. I never saw any real witches that I know of, but there is one buried up in Fannin County. They're on Aska Road in the cemetery. I've seen the place. The gravestone is old and stained, and moss grows on the back side of it. I don't regularly remember the witch woman's name, but it's carved into the stone marker. And down below her name it says, I shall return. That right there, her saying she will return, always gives me the creeps when I pass that old cemetery. Makes me wonder if right then might be the time she was referring to. My aunt lives in Fannin County. She says the legend of the witch has been around for a very long time. According to the stories, maybe she's already come back. My aunt told me that if you walk around the witch's headstone 3 times with your hand placed on top and call her name, the spirit will come. It will stay beside you as long as you are inside of the cemetery lines. But when you step beyond its bounds, the spirit disappears. My aunt did this and said it's very true. I've never walked around the stone like that. I've wanted to try it a bunch of times, but then I think, what if this witch is just waiting for the right person to call her name? She's left in the cemetery somehow, and for whatever reason she can't leave. Not yet, anyway. It's like, I've heard, stories about, like, haunts and haunts and this and that. I mean, let's face it, ghost stories, like, as Alvin Schwartz mentioned, in his book, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, has been passed down, since time immemorial, from one generation to the next, to explain things that nobody could understand, or, things that happen, because, as everybody knows, you die, eventually. But yeah, seriously, though, as far as, like, ghost stories and everything goes, some of the ghost stories that I've actually heard, are like that, just like little short, like, couple pages long and stuff. Recently, I got a copy of, Washington Irving's, a book of his writings, including, like, Rip Van Winkle, and, you know, The Headless Horseman, or The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, or whatever you want to call it. You know, and it's just, you know, eventually I'm going to probably bring that book in and actually read the book aloud to everybody in a video. I might have to do it as several videos if it comes down to it, because it's a pretty long story. It's like, you know, that many pages. Like, if you sat the book down, it's like, you know, it'd be like it'd be like about a fourth of this book, maybe. Like, you know, this is like maybe about a fourth of it. But it's an interesting story. You know, I'd actually read part of the story back in high school of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, or The Headless Horseman, and, you know, I was like, just impressed with it. Well, you know, but anyway, I just wanted to share that quick story out of the cold hand with you guys. I'm going to pause here, and I want to shoot that restaurant back that up. The restaurant review that I mentioned in the first video of the other restaurant besides the York Street Cafe. So hang on.